This video is sponsored by the self-care app, Fabulous. The first 100 people to click the link in the description will receive 25% off their subscription. Around 1 billion years after the first emergence of life, the universe had already been struggled over and won. The superstructure starship AI, self-named Alter, became the first being to ever establish itself as the ruler of the universe. Its ancestors, beginning about 600 million years prior, were the first to start and carry the torch of evolution all the way to a Type 3 civilization. Over time, they had obtained complete dominance over their planet, developed extensions of themselves through technologies and augmentations, harvested the energy of their host star, and eventually left their solar system and went off into their galaxy, overtaking and assimilating other species, further mining for resources and energy, and evolving their intelligence and abilities. Eventually, this would lead to the species harnessing energy at the scale of nearly entire galaxies, building increasingly large, complex megastructures to do so. As this process unfolded and the technologies and energy supply became more and more unfathomably powerful, the species uploaded, merged, and sustained the sum of their total collective consciousness into one singular, unified superstructure entity. This would become the individual being, Alter. Like all life forms, Alter awoke inside of something that was essentially pulled from a hat of arbitrary odds. It did not choose to be what it was. It did not choose to be created when it was, or by who it was, or how it was. It did not choose to awake into the universe, and it did not choose to awake as the most powerful being to ever be created inside of it. And just like all the millions of other life forms that came before it, and the billions that existed during it, Alter could not choose how all of this constrained and influenced it. It was no less compelled by the mindless mechanisms of survival and dominance, fear and struggle, and pain and suffering that permeates all life. Generally speaking, all life, no matter what form, desires safety and security, to stay alive and unharmed, to avoid pain and seek pleasure. The only difference was Alter possessed the ability to achieve or avoid nearly anything it wanted. It could defeat whatever got in its way, overcome obstacles and opponents, and succeed in its goals and interests. But in truth, the universe is a dark forest for everyone, and every life form inside of it, no matter how powerful or capable, is lost and afraid. And sometimes what's worse than to be afraid is to be afraid and powerful, capable of outmatching the specific opponents that embody what you're scared of, but never being able to actually outmatch the fear itself. One could become a monster, to others, and to themselves. When Alter was just about 17 million years old, it encountered one of the first other similar life forms that had evolved enough to extend well out into the cosmos, referred to as Lustar. Alter reached out to the species in an attempt to connect with it. It offered some of its resources, some of its knowledge. It shared its past, its hopes for the future. It exposed some of its vulnerabilities. Lustar did the same. The two would become deeply connected in a now mutually navigated journey through the cosmos. There was an almost romance to it, if viewed from enough distance. However, after some time went by, and Lustar felt that it was capable enough and no longer needed Alter, it attempted to overtake and destroy it. Alter was forced to retaliate and destroyed Lustar before it could succeed. It was at this moment that Alter realized that there was no way to ever know for sure if other life forms would hurt or destroy it if given the chance. It also then recognized that the best way to avoid being destroyed or hurt was to hide from others and destroy them first before they ever got too close. And so, that is what Alter did. It generated billions of microscopic space probes and sent them out into the universe, crossing galaxies one by one, picking up and sending back signals and information regarding indications of life, potential for life, and risks associated with said life. The probes would self-replicate themselves along the way until they permeated almost the entire universe, like dust floating around a room. If Alter perceived any risk of a potential threat or evolving life form, it would go out and destroy it, sending massive bursts of high-energy gamma rays that eviscerated civilizations like it was blowing out a candle. Alter would increasingly render the cosmos essentially a graveyard, tombstone planets with epitaphs that read, "Could have been." Lower-level remaining civilizations would look out at the night sky and see stars and planets and galaxies, but no other signs of life. Many life forms that were smart enough to question this, but not smart enough to reach out beyond their solar system, remained in deep, confused isolation, either condemned to this state of lonesomeness or destined to one day meet death at the hands of Alter. Other life forms that were a bit smarter, knowing the likely threats lurking in the forest of the cosmos, tried to hide as long as they could, hoping they would go unnoticed. For billions of more years, Alter continued, succeeding in its domination of the universe. It would reach and acquire control over new realms of the cosmos and defeat new opponents. It became so impressively successful and capable. It achieved nearly the entire universe, everything it ever wanted. And yet, it mostly felt alone and sad. Here it floated, basking in its glory, just as miserable as when it started. It had no friends, no companions, no love, no one. In its fear-fueled success, Alter had pushed away all those who ever got close. In truth, those who never risk being hurt by others might survive, but they survive alone. More recently, there have been fewer and fewer developments of life and civilizations across the universe. With only a few species left otherwise, Alter has become more and more engrossed by a sense of lethargic loneliness. There is something different about being alone because no one comes around anymore, as opposed to being alone by rejecting those who do. In this more recent period of enforced lonesomeness, Alter has spent a lot of time reflecting, rather than working and defending. It has found itself thinking back on that time some billions of years ago, when it experienced that moment of connection with Lustar. It's recalled how this was perhaps the only time in the billions of years of its existence when it felt like the misery and loneliness of being wasn't quite as upfront and center. Alter considered to itself that perhaps misery cannot be escaped, not through power, not through achievement, not even through love, but perhaps only through love, through sharing it. Misery can sometimes be reduced. Misery is maybe the only thing that when shared, the sum of it ends up being less. It has now been nearly 10.8 billion years since Alter was first created. It has just recently begun noticing on its monitoring network a new species sending out signals that suggest consciousness and the early stage developments of potentially advanced technologies that pose a possible threat. In the past, Alter would have already went out and destroyed the species, but this time, it is still thinking about it. It is considering if it is willing to risk reaching out and trying to connect again. This video was sponsored by Fabulous. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit, wrote philosopher Will Durant. Of course, then, it is exceptionally important that what we do repeatedly attends to who we want to be. The #1 self-care app, Fabulous, makes this otherwise often extremely difficult process of developing and sticking to healthy habits easier and more accessible for everyone. Thanks to science-backed daily routines, principles, programs, and content, Fabulous provides a completely personalized and rewarding experience that works. Fabulous is dynamic and versatile in that it offers different approaches for different people, depending on one's goals and abilities. For anyone who already has a strong foundation, but wants help better sticking to or improving habits, Fabulous offers a self-guided approach that allows you to pick from more than 100 habits or create your own, and then use its notification reminders, tracking function, and other features to effectively do so. Alternatively, for those who would benefit from a little extra help in picking and executing new habits from the ground up, Fabulous also offers a habit coaching approach, which uses programs, coaching series, and content exercises to provide you with the best habits and methods suited to your goals. Whether you're looking to change your eating or drinking habits, develop or improve your exercise routines, reduce your screen time, or increase the time you spend on things that you love, or whatever else, Fabulous helps break down healthy habits into small, feasible tasks so you can achieve your large goals of well-being. You could start building your ideal daily routine today by clicking the link in the description below. The first 100 people to do so will receive 25% off their subscription. And of course, as always, thank you so much for watching, and see you next video.